At one time in my life, I had a love affair with the Confederate flag. It started in 1975 when I joined the Boy Scouts. Our scout troop was subdivided into 4 patrols. I desperately wanted to be in the Rebel Patrol because they got to wear a patch of the stars and bars of the Confederate flag on their sleeves below a much smaller American flag. A few years later, when I became the patrol leader of the Rebel Patrol, I bought a huge Confederate flag for our group to take on hikes and camping trips. My fellow scouts loved it, and the flag hung on my wall when it wasn't being used for scouting. My Aunt Mildred was very active in our town's United Daughters of the Confederacy chapter, and once gave me a bundle of small Confederate flags left over from decorating the graves of Confederate soldiers. Our Rebel Patrol tied them to the tops of our tents so they could blow in the breeze. During all these years, it never occurred to me that a black person could take offense. It never occurred to me that it could be interpreted as a symbol of hate. It never occurred to me that it would remind people of color of the hundreds of years of slavery, Jim Crow laws, or those who tried to block the civil rights movement at every turn. I just didn't get it. I stopped loving the Confederate flag when I went to college at Mississippi State University. Our much hated in-state rival was the University of Mississippi, more popularly known as the Ole Miss Rebels, whose mascot was Colonel Reb. At football games and other athletic events, the Ole Miss fans waved Confederate flags. After that, I never again hung that huge rebel flag that used to be on my wall. Not because I had been enlightened about the true meaning of the flag, but because my college hated the Ole Miss Rebels. During those days when I loved the Confederate flag, it was not out of meanness or some evil motive. It wasn't because I supported slavery. It wasn't because I opposed civil rights. It wasn't because I supported the KKK. And it was definitely not because I was a white supremacist. It was because I was a proud Southerner and thought the flag was cool. It was out of ignorance and insensitivity. I didn't get it until I went to seminary and read Dr. King's writings. That's when I got it. That's when I understood the evil and the suffering it represented. That's when I came to terms with the ugly underbelly of the Old South, the violence, the evil, the indefensible inhumanity of slavery. So I asked myself, how is it that I could love the Confederate flag while at the same time believing what Jesus said about loving our neighbors? Had black friends told me that they liked me but hated the Confederate flag because it was a symbol of slavery, hate, and violence, would it have made any difference to me? I can't say for sure, but I believe it would have made a difference. Then, as now, I don't like to step on other people's toes. No matter how much I liked the rebel flag, I was not a guy who would have knowingly displayed a symbol of hate. I didn't get it until going to seminary, but once I did, I knew my views of the flag and the Confederacy had changed forever because I had changed. It's a given that we all grow up with certain cultural blinders. The most important thing is how we respond once the blinders have been removed. It was Proust who said, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new lands, but seeing with new eyes." Fast forward to now, this moment in history. The Black Lives Matter movement has brought our nation to a moment of reckoning, a time for individuals and society to come to grips with white privilege, to challenge the whitewashed interpretation of history that led to glorifying Confederate leaders and other racists. To be honest about racism in every corner of our country, too, including right here on Long Island. We can't see what's going on in our country, then stick our heads back in the sand. I understand the desire to avoid uncomfortable conversations. I know we're not all on the same page or on the same side. I understand that discussions might get heated, that some people might get angry. As a person who prefers to avoid conflict and just smooth things over, I'm tempted to put these issues on the back burner, to ask who wants to have a gut-wrenching discussion on race and poverty and violence in the middle of a pandemic. On the other hand, how can we as people of faith look the other way when someone is telling us a truth that we do not want to hear? How can we as followers of Jesus love our neighbors but not listen when they tell us what it's like to be black in America? What it's like to fear the police? What it's like to know that if your skin was a lighter color, that certain doors could open for you. But since your skin is a darker color, those doors will remain closed. That's not right, and we know it's not right. The hard question is, what are we going to do about it? Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Where will we stand in these challenging and controversial times? The Congregational Church of Manhasset, United Church of Christ, that I know and love, will stand up for truth, even the truths that make us feel bad. Will open its ears to voices that are crying out that enough is enough. Will open its eyes to the injustices done to help white people get ahead and keep black people left behind. And will open its mouth and say that despite 400 years of evidence to the contrary, that black lives matter. The next question is this: what will we as a church do to prove to people of color that their lives matter just as much as white lives? Amen.